morning, everyone. I'm Suyog. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Niveus Solutions. It's been an honor today to be representing Niveus and also being associated with ET CXO. I would like to congratulate ETCXO for getting us together and being part of this event. Niveus Solutions, along with Google Cloud, has been part of this digital transformation for the last couple of years in India. And one of the key changes, what we have seen in the way the customers are looking at it, how how we are moving from just building solutions to becoming more customer focused in our approach to delivering solutions. Now that change has happened, predominantly, post the pandemic. And one of the key reasons why we see that is because of the change in the ecosystem altogether, because of the disruption caused by the fintechs, and also how the technology is kind of empowering organization to deliver some of these solutions at ease, right? So today, if you look at our own case, right, there's a way in which some of these solutions have helped us in the last 2 years. Now, I would want to touch upon 2 examples which has transformed the way both as Niveus and at a personal level, things have changed and improved. The first one is, I think if you look at the way today we open up our salary accounts for our employees today, I think earlier when we used to interact with the banking ecosystem, I think you would always have a representative from the bank, and we had to kind of collate the number of joinees, for a week and then onboard them. Today, I think the entire process has been automated. Now that improves the overall experience, what we give to our employees as well. And that has significantly changed us, in delivering the services and improving that experience today, whoever joins Niveus. The second one, which I would want to, touch upon, when you look at the overall ecosystem, as an investor today, when we used to, I used to, I was using ICICI Direct as one of the key platforms for trading. But I think, and if you look at small case as a solution, I think it drives much more value than the traditional investing platform. Today, when you look at the overall ecosystem, some of these platforms are delivering, it allows us to give that extended, reach to the customers as well. So what Niveus does today is, seamlessly integrating these solutions through APIs. Now, if you look at any of these solutions, what is driving this ecosystem is interconnections of APIs and building these APIs in a similar, in a seamless fashion, right? So APIs becomes the core of these interconnections, right? And the way we have to design this and develop this is in a way that Google helps us in kind of using platforms like RPG to interconnect these systems in a very seamless manner. So today, in the last 2 years, we've been working very closely with Google and its platform in kind of building systems and interconnecting this in overall ecosystems, right? So today, today we work with banks, we work with NBFCs, we work with fintechs in delivering this end-to-end experience to our customer. So I have with me Ms. Bala. I'll hand it over to Bala, so who could talk upon how Google, along with Niveus, has helped customers in driving this end-to-end customer experience as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot and good morning. I know getting to BKC can always be a marathon every day. If you left at 8 in the morning, better. If you left at 8:30 in the morning, worse. And if you left at 9, it's worst, right? So it's always a challenge getting into BKC, but once you're here, it's all great. So I just thought, taking on from what was Suyog said, and Suyog, thank you for making the lives of our joint customers easier and their customers easier. So I want to talk about the interconnected ecosystem, which is, embedded finance is one business model out of that, right? And our views on that, and again, given that we have Google Pay as a platform, how that impacts. So when I Google Pay Suyog, my bank comes to know and Suyog's bank comes to know after the transaction, right? How do they know something about us as the transaction is happening? So I think this is just to say that if we cater to the next billion users, what is it that we envisage and how do we get there, right? And again, Google Pay or Phone Pay or Paytm, all these are ubiquitous names now, but maybe 5 years back, they were not. And so I'm not going to read all of that, but if you look at the main forces in the coming years, right? We are talking of a 4x growth in the number of transactions from 43 billion to 150 billion transactions by 2026. If you look at the growth in buy now, pay later, if you look at the growth in insurance premiums, so there's a huge growth from a market perspective, from a peer to merchant transactions, there's a 4x growth. Obviously, 51% of our population is supposed to be millennials and Gen Z. And more importantly, the ecosystem. And I think Amol touched upon the ecosystem, right? So the ecosystem obviously consists of account aggregators, which are supposed to help the institutions with consent from each one of us out here. Open banking, RBI is working on that. And then OCEN and ONDC are supposed to do exactly the same as to what UPI did to the financial system. And so both of these are supposed to be stacks which are supposed to really explode the overall financial ecosystem. And so if you look at globally, and this is a global figure, globally the embedded finance market value is generating revenues upwards of $100 billion. This is overall revenue generated as part of the full ecosystem. So we are not talking of only embedded market revenues. We are talking, sorry, embedded finance market revenues. We are talking of the revenue it generates, right? So that's about 141 billion. So just look at the, the overall jump it's been making in the last 5 years. But then if you look at the market in itself, that market in itself is growing at a CAGR of about 16.4%. 54.3 billion, again, global figure, moving to 248 billion in 10 years. And then if you look at India, it's moving from $4.8 billion to about $21 billion in 5 years, in 10 years. So that's supposed to be huge from a market shift perspective. And I think if you read ET today morning, Nandan Nilekani mentioned the fact that, right, almost 45% of Indians are using digital modes of payment, which equates to about 400 million Indians. And if you see, it's not only UPI, you also have Aadhaar-enabled payment system coming in there. But what we are seeing is a big shift towards embedded insurance, embedded payments, embedded lending. So when you go to a Make My Trip, after you book your ticket, before you pay, they ask you saying that, can we insure your luggage or trip or whatever it is, right? And so that's embedded payment, but you don't know the insurance company behind it. You come to know of it later on. So that's essentially, and Make My Trip is not a financial portal. And so if you look at the right-hand side, right, in 2021, 45% of the transactions, retail digital payments, were of the third-party platforms, and 55% were from banks. If you look and shift to the right on an estimate in FY25, that 45% is supposed to shift to 75%. And the transaction of retail digital payments from the bank is going to be 25%. Even more heavier is the shift on unsecured digital lending, right? You're talking of a 65% moving to 80% from third-party providers and 25% becoming 20% for banks. So clearly there's a huge shift. And what is happening? The amount of lending, the size of the lending transactions is going to go down, and that's what is shown in terms of various types of loans, SME loans, personal loans, and it's just the beginning. So the volume of transactions is going to explode, the value of the transactions is going to come down. And so this is just a view of how this market is going to go, right? You'll have 5 lenders all, fighting digitally in microseconds to lend to somebody, and that somebody is going to give consent to an account aggregator who again, uses OCEN to further provide those solutions to the customer, to the borrower. And so it's going to be a borrower's market in 4-5 years time. And this is what the government has sort of enabled, right, for us. And that's why even if you go to the US today, you don't have a UPI sort of a system, but in India, we already have it. So I think all of this requires a very strong technology infrastructure backbone. And so you have the user, you have the financial institutions, you have digital platforms, and you need a technology platform which is very solid for it to deliver all of this at the scale we are talking about. And who better than Google Cloud to talk about scale? Because all our businesses of Google typically serve more than 1 billion users. So when it comes to scale, we know how to build that architecture. And when we move on to this ecosystem, as we call it, right, the elements of this customer-centric ecosystem are divided into three parts. The first part is obviously the APIs, which I know, there'll be a lot more conversation happening about that. The second part is going to be about how the data is going to be managed. And again, with so many open banking, consent, account aggregators, how the data is going to be managed, how the privacy is going to be managed, what happens to the security. And then the third piece, of course, is the fact that how are we going to prevent a lot of frauds? How are we going to provide those quick on the fly, lending options to a borrower after going through the entire ecosystem? So if you want to create that frictionless experience, seamless experience, interconnected experience, if you want to facilitate new partnerships, and at the same time support the regulatory compliance from a API perspective, that's the API ecosystem will actually help you do all of that. If you look at the data management piece of it, you're going to have a huge job managing the security, and it has to be in real time. Your signals from the data are supposed to inform you of the next offer to the customer, of the next path for the customer moving forward, and to give them an omni-channel experience. Most importantly, how do you monetize the data, also adhering to the privacy guidelines, right? So I think that those are the three things which are very important from a data management perspective. And of course, if you go one step forward, your AI/ML is mainly important for detecting fraud, detecting threats, and getting a lot of predictive insights and analytics so that you can offer, apart from a seamless, frictionless experience, you can also provide a personalized experience. So I think that's essentially what this is going to be. But how does it matter for the three main constituents? And the three main constituents in this ecosystem are the business, they are the consumers, and they are the financial institutions. On the business side, it's a great source of revenue for somebody like a Make My Trip the moment some insurance sells on their site. And this is all connected, right? So they're really not putting any incremental effort on that. It's build once and then monetize forever. How do you get competitive advantage and customer loyalty? Because you are providing a single source of offers, of products and solutions for your consumer. How do you keep the consumer on your platform compared to another offering which does not have this? And the moment you are allowed a BNPL, buy now, pay later, or EMIs, your ticket size goes higher. You suddenly start believing, oh, I can now buy the 5 lakh car or the 10 lakh car or the 5 lakh fridge or whatever it is. But more importantly, you start thinking about those options, and so for the revenue size of each of those organizations goes up dramatically. If you were to look at the consumers, most importantly, because of all the data management and the AI/ML we do relevant, tailored offerings. So when does somebody take a personal loan vis-a-vis when does somebody use a BNPL? How do you reach the underserved? And more importantly, from a single portal, you get convenience, you get better experience. So that's the consumer experience, which is very important. And the last part of it, what's in it for financial institutions? Financial institutions are able to now reach a huge explosive scale of consumers through this API ecosystem, connected ecosystem. So it enables customer data acquisition. More importantly, they collect a lot of unstructured data about the customer's other behaviors online, rather than just the financial system tracking which is there. And of course, it becomes easier because they don't have to manage the customer. The API partner or the digital intermediary is a partner which is supporting the customer. So just a very quick view of the elements which are there. There's identity, there's consent management, there's a payment gateway, there's, a banking specific developer portal or an insurance specific developer portal. And that's where our partners like Niveus comes into the picture, because they help you build that and seamlessly get onto a business model which can be, done very quickly and in double quick time. That's all I had. And I hope you have a great day ahead. And I hope we can be of help in helping you build out your portals as you get to new revenue incremental models. Thank you.